If I'm going to have to sit here and pay off $300,000 of debt service and working capital issues every year, let me show that client that they're building value in their company. The whole idea of the 5 calculators that you see up front, those 5 are debt service, working capital, retirement, lifestyle, and last but not least, value. They all break down into one thing, and that's minimum mandatory profit that client has to make. And our clients, I guess I've researched and had conversations. And if we use this as the spectrum, okay, that the client's either in crisis position and option, the way I'm looking at it is the amount in crisis right now, majority being 80%. And that crisis is at all different levels. Obviously this being extreme, but our clients of option, they do exist as well, but it's about 20 to 25% max. Now those individuals still have to make a minimum mandatory profit to support whatever option they're looking for, which is, this is the lifestyle I want to have. I want to make X number of dollars a year. Everything else is in order. That's fantastic. I want to build the value of my company. Therefore, I have to have an EBITDA that's average. That's obviously built based off of the minimum mandatory profit that client has to produce.
So one of my concerns is if we're using this tool to monitor, we add this $300,000 loan on or something like that. Is there a way to exclude that from those calculations so it shows that we're making a difference?
Kind of says, okay, if we had $300,000 we had to make in profit and our overhead's $1 million and the project's going to cost $300,000, this company has to produce $1.6 million in gross margin. And we've got a budget and control to make sure it doesn't go over 1.6. And given our current 25% gross margin, this company has to do somewhere around $6.4 million, maintain that 25% gross margin, which will spit out 1.6. I want to say this is your investment. This is what has to be built in order for that to happen. You made these past sins. We're in this situation. You need to be fixed. You need to do surgery. And guess what? Your insurance is not covering it.
No, that's the reason I actually dug into the tool, because walking through the workshop or sitting through the workshop, I realized that the debt service that I was adding to the customer in the project had to be accounted for. And it's like the 2-to-1 is nice. It's a good sales tool, but I've actually got to do significantly more to not harm my client. So to use the medical terminology, I got into it, and it was important for me to get into it because I didn't want to commit malpractice on my end and make sure. And what I did is I laid this out. Here's the debt service before we got here. Here's the debt service after we got here with the new loan. And their eyes got really big, and then immediately following up, and here's the budget, how to get there. They are committed to that budget more than anything else, any other client that I've ever worked for after seeing that. And I said, and if you do this, here's what the next year looks like after you've paid off that loan, because it's gonna suck this year because you're paying for the mistakes. But the next year after that, it's
you can actually predict out numerous years, right? Next year there may be these the debt service. There might be some things that sunset in there, but I'm still making that same amount of profit. Some things sunset. Now that's cash flow that I can actually use. Instead of having a 2-to-1 assurance, we're actually just going to go with health insurance overall. That this project may be this long, this long, this long, this long, and the recovery might be this long, this long, and this long, but this is the health we assure by the end of our time together. And being able to put something in front of me that's not arguable. You have to make that X number of dollars this year for debt service, and you don't, this is what's going to affect your company. You get a negative working capital. If you don't fill up that coffer, this is the effect it's going to have on your business. They can't argue with it, because if you don't, here's the exact effect. This is what's going to happen to your working capital. This is what's going to happen to your company in general. So making those inarguable statements is what the whole intent is, and being able to measure the progress.